But we begin tonight with unexpectedly major news about the health of former Vice President Dick Cheney. An episode of acute cardiovascular disease last week required Mr. Cheney to undergo an advanced surgical procedure. Now, the nature of the surgery has revealed unequivocally the severity of Mr. Cheney's heart condition. And the entire event occurred without the real-time public awareness to which we have become so accustomed when it comes to the health of major public figures. In a statement today, the Cheney family revealed that Mr. Cheney underwent cardiac surgery last week in a Northern Virginia hospital to combat congestive heart failure. Congestive heart failure means the heart can't pump enough blood to the body's other organs. Mr. Cheney's surgery installed a small pump called a left ventricular assist device, which by battery power helps the heart's main pumping chamber pump blood through the body. Included in the Cheney family's press release was a statement from the former vice president himself, which read in part, quote, "I have dealt with coronary artery disease for decades. A few weeks ago, it became clear that I was entering a new phase of the disease when I began experiencing increasing congestive heart failure. After a series of recent tests and discussions with my doctors, I decided to take advantage of one of the new technologies available and have a left ventricular assist device implanted. The LVAD is a small implantable pump that improves heart function and will enable me to resume an active life." Mr. Cheney has suffered coronary disease for more than 30 years. A minor heart attack as recently as February was his fifth since 1978, when he suffered his first at age 37. In late June, the former vice president was admitted to George Washington University Hospital in Washington after complaining of discomfort. That episode resulted in his receiving medication to treat a fluid buildup around his heart. But this latest episode is different. The installation of this LVAD, this device, it's traditionally been a short to mid-term treatment of heart failure, frequently used to sustain patients who require heart transplants. The American Heart Association's website refers to this device as a bridge to transplant, is the way they put it. The device that Mr. Cheney received is being worn outside his body like a sort of a belly pack. His statement described the surgery as a success. He said that he is recuperating well. NBC News' Steve Handelsman did additional reporting by speaking with a doctor involved with the former vice president's care. That doctor told NBC News that Dick Cheney is doing well now, but that he was, quote, in heart failure before the surgery. The doctor described Mr. Cheney as, quote, running on 3 cylinders. Now the doctor says he is running on 8. Dick Cheney is, of course, among the most significant and polarizing figures in modern American politics and policy. As always, we sincerely wish him good health tonight. To help us understand the former vice president's current condition, Dr. Alan Stewart joins us now. Dr. Stewart is a cardiac surgeon and director of the aortic surgery program at New York Presbyterian Hospital, Columbia University Medical Center. Dr. Stewart, thanks very much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
I will guess that I got some of those basics, some of that explanation wrong. Did I get anything there, fuzz that at all?
Well, you had all the salient points right. A left ventricular assist device this is an example of the device that Mr. Cheney has. It's predominantly inside the body with the battery pack exiting through a small drive line that exits the belly. This ventricular assist device is quite small, as you can see, and it's hooked up.
Is this actual size?
This is actual size.
Oh my God, that doesn't seem small.
It involves an inflow to the device, an impeller pump, which is a rotary pump that spins at about 8 to 10,000 RPMs, and then an outflow to the body. It's hooked up by coring a hole in the ventricle. Shown here, which is a pumping chamber of the heart. This would be hooked up here. This pump would reside just at the top of the belly and then would spin. It spins in a continuous manner to allow blood to be impelled into the aorta, which contains blood and which allows blood to be distributed to the rest of the body.
It's essentially a mechanical bypass to do the pumping motion that the heart in a healthy individual would do on its own.
Exactly.
Okay. What are the implications for Mr. Cheney's health to have this implanted? As far as I understand it, this is something that's usually implanted on a short-term basis. It sounds like he's intending on having it permanently in his body.
Well, there are 2 options for a ventricular assist device. Bridge to transplant, which is a short-term device, meaning that he would eventually get a transplant. And the reality is that there is no contraindication for Mr. Cheney to have a transplant. The other option is that it can be something called destination therapy, meaning that this is his destination. This is his end result. He will have this ventricular assist device for the rest of his life.
And what does that mean for him, for the way he lives and for his health?
Well, you could have a pretty decent quality of life on a ventricular assist device. The devices are smaller now and they're quite durable. This device could be expected to last him 3 to 5 years and then could even be changed out for another device. In terms of,
when we were talking to you earlier about explaining what this means, one of the things that you pointed out, which I think was, it tells you an important point about how this works, is that Mr. Cheney won't be expected to have literally a pulse.
That's true.
He won't have a pulse.
This is a continuous ventricular assist device, meaning the blood is impelled. It is not a pulsatile device, so if someone were to feel Mr. Cheney's wrist, Mr. Cheney will have no pulse.
Because it flows continuously like a garden hose instead of something that goes on and on and on.
Exactly.
No pulse.
The normal heart has a expansion and contraction, and that gives that bump bump or 2-beat pulse that we feel. It's the valves closing. The valves will stay shut in his heart now, and blood will flow in a continuous manner.
Through that whirring motor that's in the machine.
Correct.
How common are devices like this, and what does Mr. Cheney having one suggest to you about the seriousness of his condition?
Well, it means he's at the end of his line as far as medical care. He had coronary surgery, he had percutaneous stenting done, he had a pacemaker, he had medical management, and failed all of those over the course of time. This was his last step. Either he would die of congestive heart failure, or we would have a mechanical device inserted. It meant that he was quite ill at the time of his operation and didn't have a long period of time to exist without a fatal event.
It is shocking to hear the doctor describe him as being in heart failure at the time this was implanted. One last detail on this. It seems remarkable, again, for people who don't know about these devices like me, that this is worn, part of this, the drive for this, as you say, is worn outside the body. Does Mr. Cheney have to wear this belly pack apparatus all the time now?
Absolutely. The device is powered by batteries for 6 to 8 hours outside to be untethered, and he'll carry a number of battery packs either in a handbag or in a harness, which becomes quite small and really not visible underneath the clothes. However, at nighttime he'll need to be hooked up into a power adapter into the wall.
Wow. Without a pulse.
Without a pulse.
The state of the technology is amazing. This is a strange way to learn it, and obviously grave concern for Mr. Cheney's health, but it's fascinating. Dr. Stewart, thank you very much. I really appreciate your help with this.
Thank you.
Dr. Alan Stewart is a cardiac surgeon. He's the director of the aortic surgery program at New York Presbyterian Hospital, Columbia University Medical Center.